outside. I'm gonna go upstairs to get some batteries, and I'm also gonna get the clicker.
Clicker's not here?
No, it's upstairs on Kim's desk, so I will be back.
He's gonna be here. So,
He'll be here, and I've asked him to leave the seat here now.
38.5 million passengers. This year we'll probably go to 41. We're about twice the size of any other airport in Canada. We're double the size of Vancouver, Calgary, or Montreal. There is no taxpayer money going to the airport. Right? When the government privatized the airport in 1996, the airport went out. Whatever we built, we have to self-finance, which is what you see at New Terminal 1. This is all borrowed money, by the way. And not only are they not putting any money in, the government last year received about $120 million from Gtaa as a lease payment to them. So we are a great money generator for the government. So I say Canada's largest airport. It's a major hub airport, and I call it the only international gateway hub for Canada. So how did we get where we are? In 1970, as you can see, we're probably about 10.5 million passengers. I don't know, some of you may be able to remember this, the old Malton. 1990, we're about 21 million passengers. There's the old Terminal 2, Terminal 1. I think Terminal 3 is just under construction today.
wow.
Right. Terminal 1, Terminal 3, to run 3 one-way, east-west, 2 north-south. And last year, 38.6. So it took us about 10 years, about 15 years to go from about 21 million to roughly 38, 40 million this year. It will probably take us another 6 years to go from 40 million to 50 million. Again, it's the scale of the airport, which is getting bigger. We have 65 airlines, 430,000 flights, going to 31 Canadian destinations, what I call over 140 international destinations. Even though we split out U.S. as a transporter, but if you look at the international convention, anytime you fly out of the country, it's an international destination. By the way, this is about the same number of flights in Hong Kong. If some of you are from Hong Kong, this is about the same number of flights in Hong Kong today, but they're doing 68 million passengers. Why? Because and they only have 2 runways. Why? Because they're averaged about 70% of the aircraft flying out of there are wide bodies. We're about 70% narrow bodies. So we have a lot of potential to grow, capacity to grow. Again, over almost 23 million of our passengers are international passengers. We're the second largest gateway into North America, both US and Canada. In terms of international passengers, the only airport we're behind is JFK. Chicago has 65 million passengers, but only 10 million are international. So Toronto is very uniquely, 2/3 of our passengers are actually going outside of Canada. By 2030, by 2033, we expect 65 million passengers. This is based on a very conservative growth rate of about 3.5%. The last 2 years we've been growing over 6%. So we may have to revise those numbers a few years from now. What does it mean? Today, on an average day, I have 110,000 people going through the airport. So this is what it looks like, 110,000 people. This is Michigan State.
Wow.
Right? By 2030, this is what it'll look like. 200,000. The only stadium we find big enough is in North Korea. But that's 200,000. So that's the scale of change happening at this airport. Where is the passenger coming from? So Pearson and Toronto is very uniquely, very well situated. Within a 3-hour driving circle, right? Our catchment area is 12.5 million. Okay. Within about 2 hours flying circle, I have 150 million catchment area. We are the largest catchment area in all of North America. We're bigger than New York. We're bigger than Chicago. We're bigger than. Why? Not because we're in. You notice when we draw a circle, it's almost all over land. New York, when you draw the same 2-hour circle, half of it's over water. Right. Similarly, you look at San Francisco, similarly Los Angeles. So we're very uniquely situated. It really allows us to, and which is what you'll see Air Canada, what they're saying to do, which is taking passenger from that 2-hour domestic and America, really from America, and taking it to the world. So Pearson is here not just for its own sake. Right? I say Pearson actually knits Canada together because of the richness, not because of the airport, because of the city and the area, which of all the business activity, tourism activity, it has a very rich network all through Canada. So we have many flights to the East Coast, many flights to the West. Not likely, not easy for a flight from here to Calgary. So what they do, they hub through. Pearson allow business and people to travel across Canada conveniently, easier. And I call that, like the old days of the railway, this airport helped knit Canada together. And it also helped Canada compete globally. Because about 15 years ago, this used to be a Vancouver, a Pacific gateway, Toronto, the Atlantic gateway. Why that is the case in those days, you can't fly direct. The aircraft don't have the technology or the range to fly from Toronto all the way, for example, to Hong Kong. I remember the first trip I went to Hong Kong was after I immigrated here. Must be 1975 after I got married. We had to stop off in Tokyo. You will, the old 747-200s of Canadian Pacific, some of you may remember, right? CP Air. You'll leave from Vancouver, you'll land in Tokyo. And then I remember first flight, I landed in Tokyo, I go, oh, we arrived here pretty quick, about 8 hours. And on the map, it shows about another 800 miles. Well, we'll arrive early, right? And then you get the plane, take off again. It hits the jet stream coming right at them. And indeed, it took 4 hours to do the last 800 miles. Nowadays, thanks to Madame Zhao in China, a lot of the flight now, instead of going through if you watch, instead of going down along the east coast of China, which will hit that very strong wind, we actually now, if you see it, we now go over Beijing. When you go over Beijing and down, you avoid that wind, and that saves a lot of time, a lot of fuel, very, very green. So again, the opening up of China allowed for a lot of this activity and trade. And again, because of that now, truly Toronto, other than for Sydney, Australia, and New Zealand, which is really at the edge, from Toronto you can now go anywhere you want to the east, anywhere you want to go to the west. It has now become the true gateway airport of Canada, both east and west. So that's why I now call it the gateway, the true gateway for Canada is actually Pearson. And also, we now have the opportunity of actually bringing the passengers, as I say, with Air Canada and other airlines, using this hub to actually feed from Caribbean from Latin America and also go to Asia and Europe. So again, very, very well situated geographically. Where are we going? Where does everybody want to go nowadays? Where does all the tourism, all the business? How come Pearson is growing? Again, this is nothing new. Most of us have seen it. I always tell people, this is Shanghai in the mid-19th, Shanghai today. That tells you why the world's changing, right? China today has about that 100,000. I was at a conference in Hainan province last year, about 100 million outbound passengers. That will, I remember the Minister of Tourism was saying, by 2020, it'll double. The world is waiting. And why China and places like India is traveling so much? It's called the propensity to travel today. Oops, sorry, I think I flipped it. Today, at this GDP level, per capita GDP, propensity to travel in China is 0.5. So everybody takes about half a trip. By the time they get to about $10,000 US, which is everybody figuring about by 2020, propensity to travel will be 1.3 billion trips. Actually, the world has to get ready. The world has to get ready. It's not the other way around. Where is the traffic coming from? The world has to get ready. But again, I say to people, China is, when I go on to talk, a lot of people ask me about China, I say, how to market into China. I say, China is not a homogeneous market. It's 1.3 billion people, huge area, mountains, prairies, deserts, also a different requirement. China is getting richer, and they're moving up the value chain. Okay? I remember speaking in Vancouver with somebody on a panel with somebody from the forestry industry, Forestry Association. And he was saying to me that 5 years ago, they were in there selling the lower end lumber, the spruce 2x4s and so on. But he said now the higher value wood product are being sought after. So they're moving up the value chain. So as Canadians and the Canadian business, how can we move that? How can we take our product into China? And the higher value item is maybe more compatible with air freight. Right? Obviously, lumber is too heavy, too low cost. But as a higher value goes up, then as the value chain goes up, time is important, and therefore, again, air may be appropriate. One benefit of Pearson being an international hub, we have more and more wide bodies coming in. Okay. Wide bodies are what used on the international flights. When I went to Hong Kong in 1995, if I remember correctly, 60% of freight, and Hong Kong is the biggest freight market. It's the busiest air freight airport in the world. It today has over 1 million tons, or 4 million tons, over 4 million metric tons a year. It surpassed Memphis as the cargo hub, #1 cargo hub in the world. When I was there in 1995, 60% of cargo is carried by dedicated freight, 40% in the belly of aircraft. Today, even in Hong Kong, 60% are carried in the belly of aircraft, 40% are by. Why? Because the wide body's ability to hold cargo underneath is tremendous. So with more and more wide body aircraft coming through Toronto, got more capacity for freight. With more capacity, hopefully prices come down, right? Which will then allow for businesses to be using that mode for moving freight. I was at a conference which we organized in Ottawa November last year. One of the questions I was asked by one of the audience was, I knew that in November there's the Black Friday sale, right, with cross-border. Apparently there's an equivalent for Monday in the internet, some right? Cyber Monday or something. This businessman stood up and asked a question. He said, Mr. Ng, he said, on Cyber Monday, I put Halifax lobster on the site. You see, in 5 hours, I sold 6,000 lobster to Shanghai. Can you assure me my lobster can get there safe? That's how the world is changing, right? Lobster from Halifax are being sold on the internet, and they got to get there before Christmas. And they don't survive long. They can't go by boat, so through the air. So that's, I think, is China today. And I think, again, we're situated with the flights to Beijing, Hong Kong, Shanghai. We're missing Guangzhou, but I'm trying to work on China Southern for Guangzhou. And then, so we're well situated. And now, not just to China, we have Jet Airways coming from India, but Air Canada later this year is going to fly direct to Delhi also, if I remember. So we are connecting the world. But I also say, as an airport, but as a country, we need to understand and try to attract the people coming. I was in that same conference in Hainan Island. This is what the CEO of Coca-Cola China put up. He said, I have a lot of 20, 30-year-old workers. Say, here's their characteristics in China. He said, my workers, I said, they're young, 20, 30-year-old. They're very mobile. They don't think of a career with a company anymore. They think of maybe 5, 10 years, and they're looking for another job, another opportunity. They may or may not own a house or a condo. May or may not marry, or marry very late. Like us. They're very adventurous. Right? They be frequent travelers. They want to be convenient when they get there. They're brand conscious, and they get a lot of the information from everybody. Right? And if we don't meet their needs, they as quickly tell their friends and the world why they don't want to come to Canada. So I always remind people we got to make sure we meet their expectations. But an interesting thing is, some of us, most of us I think here has children too. You can take that profile and say they are almost similar to our kids born here. The world is shrinking through the internet and cheaper flights. I think the world is shrinking, and people have the ability, and people know each other, and people are experienced. And I think there's better coordination and activity around the world. So that's one of the benefits Pearson brings to the community, is to allow us to hook to and connect to all this part. Pearson tomorrow, we are a business, right? Like I say, we are, in order to build the facility here, we did not get any government money. As a matter of fact, this airport and the other 8 international airports in Canada is specifically exempt, not allowed to participate in any of the government fund to build infrastructure. So if I need to get money to help build some roads, I need to go to Brampton and say, let's work together. Because you can apply, I cannot. I cannot apply. I go to Toronto and say, Mayor Tory, or or in Mississauga, because we are, as an airport, excluded from any of those funds that the government have put set aside for infrastructure. This airport is $6 billion in debt. Last year, we just paid back $500 million. At the end of our lease, I have to return this airport, which is a 60-year lease, to the government of Canada debt-free. So we have to pay it all down. So thank you for flying, and could you please keep flying so I can get revenue, and please shop too when you're in our retail, which we're getting better retail, and shop so that I can pay off my debt before I have the airport back to go. And we are, I think, one of the key front door, for not just for Canada, but for all of North America. We were very happy, and unfortunately I was here to support the Journey to Hong Kong presentation. I remember working together with them. Let's exhibit. I like to put the same exhibit back in Chatham Airport. Again, the airport is not just for the community, it's a big economic generator. We hired a firm called Frontier Economics to identify for us what are jobs, what are the spends, and so on. Today, we contribute or facilitate over $35 billion in economic activity in Ontario, and it generates over 277,000 jobs. About 6% of the economy of Toronto, of the Ontario. By 2030, we'll double that. Almost double the workforce. We're almost, the airport is sometimes one of the larger employer for some of the community, single employer for some of the community around us. One of the key issues is that at some point, Pearson will run out of capacity. No airport can grow forever, right? Beijing, for example, is building a second airport. Right? Dubai is building a second airport that can handle 200 million passengers. Mind-boggling numbers. We are also blessed in the region. There's multiple airports. So we just started a study with those airports to say, we think in about 30 years time, demand for air travel here will be almost 90 to 100 million. How can we accommodate that activity with not just Pearson, which we run out of capacity with the surrounding airport? But the key is to make that work ground transportation. Right? And ground transportation makes sure that not means we've got to build railways, everything today, but what I'm telling people is when the province or the cities or the municipalities are planning the roadwork, the buses, the subways, don't forget about the airport. Most people forget that last kilometer. I used to always say last mile, but I think I should say last kilometer, right? And without that last kilometer, you lost the connectivity. Without that connectivity, it's very difficult to make everything work. So to me, this is a study we started, and we will hopefully have a result in next year and try to work with the community to talk about how can we ensure the right connectivity. I know people talk about Buffalo Airport as a competitor to us. Not at all. We are 40 million passengers. Last year, Buffalo handles about 3.8 million. The year before that, they did 4.2. They're dropping, not growing. 2 million comes out of Canada, but the airlines that fly there will never fly here. The Allegiants and the Spirit are very niche players. You know, they are, and a lot of those very ultra low cost airlines will never cross the boundary, but they add complexity. You fly out into Canada, they got customs immigration, the plane, pilot got ill, where did they find alternate paths? So to me, it's very good that for people that want that level of service, there is a choice. And to me as well. As a matter of fact, I have no problem trying to help create that movement to make people move. not just Buffalo, and also with our friend Billy Bishop. They all are here. To me, all of this encourage travel. And as more people travel, the pie gets bigger. The pie gets bigger, all of us do better. So I don't view any of these airports as competitors. We are part of the system to manage traffic in this area. So what is a competitive, what will be a hindrance to Pearson's competitiveness is ground transportation. If I'm willing to fly 12 to 16 hours to come to Canada, there's many places that I can fly to. If I arrive in Canada, in Pearson, and I want to go to Niagara Falls, because nobody comes to an airport because they like the airport. As much as I work in the airport 35 years, they don't come here because they like the airport. They come here to go somewhere else. Downtown to do business, go see Niagara Falls. You just think about it. If you are a passenger and you get off the plane and it takes you 8 hours to get to Niagara Falls because of the road is all congested, maybe I'll go fly to somewhere else because there are other lovely falls. So for us, I always plead to everybody that listens, we as a community has to work on our ground transportation. We've got to free up some of the roads for things like tour buses, freights, cargoes that need that. And we've got to get better public transport and connect ourselves together so that we've got great ground connectivity to complement our air connectivity. So again, that's my last plea to everybody. That's why I have this message. Please help and ensure that this will happen here in Pearson in the next 20 years. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your attention.
Canadian-made regional jet taking off right now. Following that, that's an Air Canada one. And following that is a Delta Airlines Canadian-made regional jet. And then we've got a WestJet 737-800. That's their big jump.